What's going on? Welcome to another episode of the Corbin Claypool Show. Excited to have a few guests on today. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've got good synergy. We're going to talk to Christian, who's an absolute beast, doing a lot of endurance races and some other stuff that he'll go into. We got Dylan here, of course, again. We hope that Dylan doesn't share a bunch of stuff that we don't need to talk about today. And we've got the boy Bill, or
I don't even know my name.
it's Bill, right?
Just recruited me.
We found this guy off the street somewhere. We just brought him with us.
Hitchhiking.
He seemed like he'd be a good co-host here, so we got him.
Might as well.
All right, if you guys want to go around and share who you are, Dylan, go ahead and share to the audience who you are, bro.
Yeah, Dylan Miracle, Bill's son. But I'm a retired wrestler. I'm in real estate now, real estate agent, real estate investor. So
Cool.
Yeah,
You're up,
Christian Brown Johnson. I'm a farmer, realtor with Bo and Dylan, and avid endurance athlete and Ironman athlete.
Nice.
And I'm Bo Miracle, the hitchhiker that just wound up here. Miracle Realty, property management, and also investor.
Awesome. So we're going to kind of segue into this because, Christian, I know you got a race coming up in France, right? So go into this a little bit, man. What does that race look like? And then I'm going to kind of ask you questions, if you're okay with that,
All right.
about how you got into all this.
All right. Yeah, so Ironman Worlds Championship. So you have to qualify for the race. Usually it's in Kona. Like if you ever hear Ironman athletes talk about, I want to go to Kona. Well, this is what it is. So this year they split the race. Women will be in Kona and the men's will be in Nice, France. So coming into this race, you have to qualify. It's all qualification. So you have to do a full Ironman race and take either take a top spot overall or a top spot in your age group. So I raced my first Ironman Texas, back in April, and I took 12th place in my age group. So they allocated a certain amount of slots. I think it was 9 slots in my age group that could go to Worlds. So people can deny it and just not accept it. So it ended up rolling down to, I think, the 14th spot in my age group. So I said I had the opportunity to take it. So I said, screw it, like this is a goal of mine to make it to Worlds, and here's my opportunity. Mm-hmm. But it's funny because they'll call you out and you go up there. It's at the brunch the day after an Ironman race. So you have to go up there. Like, do you want to take the spot? And you say yes. And they're like, okay, pull out your credit card. We're going to charge you $1,500 right now for this race. So it's like you got to be on the spot and want it. But I said, once in a lifetime opportunity, and this was a goal of mine. And my coach and I had talked about me going to Worlds at some point. So got signed up for it, and since then I've been just training on a 4-month training block for this race. And it's like 20-hour weeks, kind of getting to a deload period now, but lots of swimming, lots of biking, running, and lifting as well.
For the people that don't know, how many miles are going to be in this race?
So it's a 2.4 mile swim in the ocean. So it goes out, you're going out against the current.
What about sharks, bro? Does anybody worry about sharks?
No. I haven't even looked up anything about the ocean out there to see if sharks.
Well, he just did a
It's just sea
jiu-jitsu class,
turtles.
so he'd probably just do like an armbar on the shark or something.
I heard it's just sea turtles, bro. That's all they have.
Yeah,
That'll be good.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
safe.
while I'm swimming, I can look down and pet a few.
Yeah.
So 2.4 mile swim. You get out, run to transition, get your wetsuit off if you're wearing one, and then jump on the bike. And it's 112 miles on the bike. So you go from the beach up through the hills of France. And it's about 8,000 feet of gain. So I think it's one of the steepest Ironman races.
It's probably got to be beautiful too, though. I bet, right?
I watched some videos on it recently, and you're going through all these little towns up in the hills, and then you end up obviously coming back down to the beach. And it's so cool.
So how long does you said 112 miles.
Yeah,
How long
112.
does 112 miles take?
So with the hills, it just depends on how good of a rider you are. There's a lot of downhill, so you're going to be able to pick up some speed and be off the pedals to kind of regain some of that energy. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to guess probably 6.5 hours, somewhere around there or less.
How long does the swim take?
So the swim, I'm not
If
a
you had
fast,
just rough estimate.
yeah, I'm not a fast swimmer, so I'm gonna shoot for a time. It's like a hour 15-minute time.
But hold on, he has to run also, bro.
Yeah, so
A whole marathon after all this. After this,
He's
a
just
full
warming
marathon.
up at this point.
Bro, this sounds
So,
like
wrestling
torture, dude. I'm not
sharks
gonna lie.
and then
Ironman Texas, I crapped the bed on the swim. I did horrible swim time, like an hour 29 minutes. You've got people out there, like there's so many people going at once. Everyone's running over the top of each other. Like you're nailing people are nailing you. So I was just all kind of clustered, and yeah, had a horrible swim time at Ironman Texas.
Just stay in the middle.
Yeah.
Because if sharks are there, they're gonna get the outsiders first.
Well,
you know? You're
so
just like,
I'll segue to kind of a different story where sharks are present. I did the Escape from Alcatraz a few months ago, and they take you out in a barge by Alcatraz, and everybody jumps off into the I was right next to Alcatraz, and everyone's jumping in like at the same time. Everyone's kind of same thing, swimming over the top of each other, and the current is pushing you. I think the current that day was like 2.5 knots, so it's pushing everybody. Like you'll be swimming and you'll look over and you'll see someone like 20 feet away from you, and you go to take another breath, and that person's like right there up in your face because that current's pushing them. Yeah, before I went and did that event, everyone was like, "Oh, there's sharks out there. Like, are you worried about it?" I'm like, "No, I'm gonna try to swim fast, and hopefully, if a shark is out there, it's gonna grab somebody else before it gets me."
That's so
Holy
crazy.
crap.
When you're doing these like races and stuff, because we're not talking, especially like an Ironman, you're not out there for 2 or 3 hours. You're out there like the entire day.
Yeah.
So where do you go? Like I'm sure it's during a certain part of the race, you have to go somewhere mentally. Like what are you thinking? Or are you just in like a flow state where you're not thinking? Like what's going on upstairs?
It's mostly a flow state. I mean, this might sound weird, but I start to do like a lot of calculations in my head, like and think about my pacing and how I'm feeling, and okay, like I'm gonna have to take in this much nutrition at this time, and you got to stay up on top of a lot of things. The swim, once you get out, like once you get in the water and get going, your adrenaline's just spiked and your heart rate's cranked. So on the swim, the goal for me within the first couple of minutes is to lower the heart rate, get in a rhythm, get just in a good motion. Once you get out of the water, get on the bike. You don't really have any time to grab any nutrition. You just have to have everything set up on your bike. So get on the bike, take in some fluids, and once you're on the bike, you kind of just get settled in and just zone out, and just you got to take some time to look around and enjoy the scenery and what's around you.
does it go by pretty quick?
It does.
So even though it's like 100 hours, by the time it's over, you're like, oh, that
Yeah.
wasn't so bad.
Yeah, no, it flies by, man. Like Ironman Texas, that took me 10 hours and 19 minutes.
Which is an insane time, by the way, and that's why he's going to
Yeah,
Worlds.
somewhere around there, 10, 19 or
That's
something
insane.
like that. And the run on that, I mean, that was my best discipline of that whole race was the run. And
How many miles do you have to run?
So it's a marathon.
How long is a marathon? dude?
26.2 miles.
But dude, tell him the time that you got in the marathon.
So I ran a 3:12. So my goal for France is to run a sub 3
So
marathon.
so 3:12. So what is that broken down to, like as far as?
I think my average
Wow.
pace on that was like a 7:20.
After a
That's
swim,
insane.
after a
That's over
swim,
20 miles.
Dude,
and
I don't
after a
even know if
bike
I could
ride.
run a 7:20 nowadays, man.
Dude.
Like 1 mile. That's
But
insane.
that's kind of my background, starting from OCR 10 years ago to ultra marathons and all that. It's like I've always
Let's talk
been
about where it really started, brother. Come on.
Well, hang on, we got to finish with France first. Well, and back to your,
Yeah.
talking about what state you have to get into. Yeah, you end up kind of just zoning out, and I can't even really express like what I think about. You just start thinking about all kinds of random stuff, but most of the time you're really just focused. Especially like on the bike, you need to hold a certain wattage, so you're focusing on making sure you're holding the correct speed and watts, and like I said, fueling properly. And then once you get off the bike, you're jamming through transition, and you just take off running. And the weird thing about going to the run is when you're done with that bike, your hips and legs feel super heavy, and you feel like, well, I'm not gonna be able to run fast. But the weird thing is your legs are so used to doing this for 5-6 hours that once you start running, your legs just kind of take you, and like you end up taking off quick.
So you kind of get that runner's high.
Yeah.
It's just like
Yeah, so you take off, like same thing. You get yourself kind of in a groove, get the heart rate where it needs to be.
But what are you eating during the process?
So most of it, like before the race in the morning, I'll take in like 3,000 milligrams of sodium, a couple hundred grams of carbs. Which, I mean, that's so tough on the stomach. Like, you got to get up really early and take all that in because you're going to be in the bathroom, like, immediately.
Just crapping yourself.
Yeah. But just load yourself up. And then on the bike, I'm going to have over half a gallon of fluids. So we'll have another 4,000 milligrams of sodium, a couple hundred grams of carbs. And then I'll also have some bars and some gels and other stuff like that. And then ketones. I've been taking ketones as well. That kind of helps settle the stomach.
And you're doing this during the race, so you're running, and then okay, I'm going to eat a gel pack or whatever.
Well,
do you have like the
on
gel
bike.
packs taped to you, like you see?
No. So in my kit, in my suit, in the back, I have pockets. So once I get on the bike, I'll shove some stuff in the back of my kit, and then I'll have some stuff on the bike as well. So then once I transition to the run, I'll be able to grab what I need. And then they have not check-in points, but aid stations for the bike and also for the run. So on the run, every couple miles, you got a spot where you can grab water or whatever they have. They'll have snacks and stuff. They'll dump water on you. So it's kind of a big community event. A lot of people are out there helping. And
okay.
And, yeah.
When you're transitioning from going to the swim to the bike, are they timing you and getting everything together as well, or is that your time kind of stop, and then when you get on the bike, that's when your time?
So you're wearing a chip the whole time. So once you start the swim, that's when it starts, and then you'll come through and you'll have a time where it'll say, okay, this is how long your swim was, and this is what T1 is. So transition 1 is from the swim to the bike. So that's how long it takes you from getting out of the water to running to wherever the bikes are all lined up at, getting on your bike, and then you cross another mat, and that's when your bike time starts. Bike your 112 miles. Once you cross that mat, coming back into that same transition spot, then you're in T2. So then it'll record, okay, how long did it take you to get off your bike and get your shoes on, and then cross the next mat to start your run.
Gotcha, dude. I had a funny memory come up. I did a triathlon one time. It was like a really small triathlon over by Buchanan and Alta Sierra. And I was crushing, dude, because I was a good swimmer, too. I swam in high school and played water polo. So I was ahead of everybody. I'm getting on the bike. I'm crushing, doing pretty good. Dude, like the entrance is this way. I go the complete opposite direction. And I just get lost, dude. And then I come back way behind everybody else at that point. So does that ever happen to people? Like, do they end up going the wrong way? Or I guess at that level, they probably studied the courses so much you're more in tune.
There's all kinds of people out there doing these events, man. Like, you'll have your pros, you'll have your really good guys, and you'll have your newbies that, people just want to get out there and do it. As far as Worlds goes, I mean, it's harder to get into, so a lot of people will be experienced or just a good athlete. But yeah, stuff happens for sure. Like at Alcatraz, the current was so strong that it was actually pushing people past the spot they were supposed to get out of the water, and people ended up down like a quarter mile down the coastline, almost by like the Golden Gate Bridge, and they had to like circle back around.
Crap.
Yeah.
That's
So
crazy.
stuff does happen, but as far as the bike and run, everything's pretty well marked. And
So how did you get into this?
so we'll go back to Bo's question about how I got started in all this. About 10 years ago, I started running Tough Mudders just for fun, and I wasn't really a great athlete in high school or anything like that. I played some sports and did some motocross, and then started to kind of I got into CrossFit. That's how Bo and I met when I was 18 or 19. And that became a huge passion of mine. I started running a little bit. So got into doing Tough Mudders, did them for fun for years. And then about my early mid-20s, I decided, I want to get competitive in this, because they started opening up some competitive series. So I started racing some of their competitive races, and they hold an event called World's Toughest Mudder every year. One event, it's a 24-hour obstacle course race. So I started doing those, and the first one I ever did, I think I was 20 or 21. I had a goal of doing like 50 miles, right? So it's the 5-mile loop with 20 plus obstacles, and you start at noon on Saturday, and it goes till noon on Sunday, and you're fighting the weather, and you got a wetsuit. you eventually have to put on because it gets so cold at night. You're in and out of water and mud and getting shocked, and their electricity obstacles.
Holy shit, there's electricity.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. She's doing this for fun, bro.
Yeah.
So, they got all kinds of crazy stuff. But I did 50 miles, and I was like super stoked. And I remember watching one of the really good athletes do 100 miles at that race, and I thought, that's not even real. Like, there's no way like that's possible. Like, there's no way I could ever do that. So fast forward, I got into doing ultra marathons and a couple other things. Started doing triathlons in 2019 just for fun. Just bought a road bike, started getting into that. And then in 2021 at World's Toughest Mudder, I ran 100 miles. That was like a bucket list goal of mine. And that was just a total like pivotal moment in my life because I started from the bottom in this community of just, hey, I'm just regular dude coming out here to run 10 miles and drink some beer after, to, okay, now I'm literally an elite Tough Mudder OCR athlete and top 10 in the world right now, and one of 15 people in the world to have ever run 100 miles at this event. And that was just like a huge pivotal moment in my athletic endeavors. And then since then I've really kind of focused on doing some of these Ironman races, and still focusing on the World's Toughest Mudder event. I'm doing that in November this year, so after Ironman Worlds, I'm going to that race in November.
So, I mean, I could see this turning into like a full professional career for you, dude.
I've always considered it, but with everything else I have going on, I have my work and my businesses, and that's that. And then this has always been my passion. I've just never really found the drive to, say, monetize it yet. Eventually I will.
And I think for you too, just you may not even have to try. It may just happen naturally, because as you keep becoming better and better, more higher ranked in the world, like people obviously already look up to you in this community, and as you get better and better, it's just going to kind of like put you at a spot where people like want to learn.
Hold on. This dude said, I don't really have the drive to do it.
Yeah, that's
let's just stop you there.
Yeah, well, what did you do this morning?
Yeah. Like, but not even that. Just like dude, you're just already driven.
Yeah.
You know what
right.
I mean? So like, I think that like what Corbin was saying for you, what's really just I guess the milestone is that you're just doing what you love to do.
Yeah.
And if whatever comes from that turns into profession, I think that you would accept it. But it would be hard for you to differentiate because you're so used to doing 100 million things at once. So, I mean, this dude's probably, you got to imagine, he's still got to work. So is he swimming and writing up offers? Or is he like writing contracts for ag while he's like on the bike and shit?
I know, dude. How many hours? So 20 hours a week. So how many hours a day? Like 4 hours a day?
On average, 2.
2 hours a day.
If I have a 20-hour week, I'm usually doing 8 to 10 on the weekend. Usually that's like a 5-6 hour bike ride and a run off, and then Sunday will be a long run or a swim.
That's insane, dude. Like,
Dude, no, listen. The other day I said, hey, did you want to come over and hang out and whatever? He's like, yeah.
Last Saturday?
Yeah, he was like, I got a 7-hour training block. I was like, yeah, I worked out for 30 minutes today. 7 hours, bro. You just get...
Last Saturday.
when do you start? Do you start early in the morning?
So a buddy of mine that I ride with, he lives over at kind of near you out here. I got up, last Saturday. I got up at like 3:30, drove out to his house. We got on the bikes at 4:30. We have lights and radar on the bike and everything, so we're all pretty safe. Started riding. He rode with me for 2 hours, and then I kept going because I had a 5.5 hour ride. So I did a 101 mile ride, and then I had a 45-minute run off the bike after that.
So you're getting done around like 11 o'clock.
Yeah, I wrapped up that around 11.
I mean,
11:30.
that's how, for me, I would have to do that to like keep my sanity. Because I don't know if I can get up at 10 and just do that all day long and then not have the rest of my day to do something.
Yeah,
But
I've done
again,
that
it's
before. It's your whole day is gone if you. Yeah.
It's different though too. I'm sure for you because it's a passion. For me, I'd be on the bike like fuck
But
this.
hold on, he said he's not driven.
No.
Yeah, dude.
No, it's the driven to
Be a pro.
try to monetize this stuff. I mean, I've never been sponsored. I've self-funded everything I've ever done with this. But eventually, I've actually reached out to a few companies recently because it is a goal of mine to get sponsored. I think it would be cool, and like you said, eventually it'll come, but I've never really pushed too hard.
Yeah, I just think naturally with the level of athleticism that you're doing, it's just going to happen naturally. Like I don't think you're going to have to force it too much. I don't think, and I could be wrong on this, I don't think you're going to have to be out there on social media and doing all this stuff, because I feel like those top athletes in the world, just people reach out to them. Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but
Yeah, well, these days you'll see a lot of athletes that are sponsored by a lot of companies or making money off of it. They're very present on social media. They're doing a lot of good content, which I don't do much of. I'm pretty low key on like Instagram, for example. But I think for me to kind of take it to the next level, I do need to be a little more present online.
Well, that's the conversation we had the other day. Because I was telling him, like, to us, right? Like, he's a pro. Like, there's no like doubt in my mind. Like anybody that can say, "Oh, I just did 111 miles today on the bike, and then after that, I ran a marathon." I mean, we're separating something at that point, And so, what I was telling him is, share it. Share what your passion is. Share it, because that's what social media is there for. Is to allow you to share it, to inspire other people. And if you add value to other people, I mean, because to us, the local community, you kind of said it earlier, I mean, we're inspired.
100%.
I mean, for somebody to have the will and the discipline to do this every day and consistent. I mean, this is a guy that used to compete with my old ass at CrossFit. That's why I keep bringing that up. And he would just be like, he would never stop. I was like, geez. And he was like, why is this old guy working out next to me or whatever, But it was one of those things, like to watch him gravitate into this other realm of fitness, to me, that's admirable, And I know that there's a lot of other people, because, dude, just to even just wake up and go to the gym and work out, that's hard enough for some people.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. Like, even though for me, like, I don't think I'd ever want to do what you're doing, but it's still so freaking inspiring and motivating. Like, even in my mortgage business, dude, like, if you can do all of that and have your business and have all this, like, what am I even complaining about, saying it's hard to get up at 6 o'clock to work out in the morning? You know what I mean? I think that you're right, man. It inspires people a farther reach than just that specific industry. Like, if you post content about that, it's going to inspire everybody in real estate. It could be any business, could be jujitsu, it could be anything, because that to me is not like the act of what you're doing. It's like the mental toughness and the mentality that you have to be able to do that. Yeah. And not everybody has that,
Well, and if you document the journey, right? Again, I mean, just as he's kind of going into this, I mean, to go to France and compete at the Worlds, I mean, whether this is like something that he's really set as a goal or whatever the case might be, I mean, that's a big deal. Like, I mean, and self-funded, that's another part of it. Like, you have to be willing to invest and be able to be financially in a good place to be able to do that. So what's wrong of someone supporting the fruits of your labor at that point by sponsoring or whatever? And the best way to do it is, influencers, other people that are seeing it that might have a bigger impact. As long as you're out there being consistent, if you change somebody else's life, they'll only add more to yours because you're giving it away. And I think that's what he has, and that's what we're kind of talking about. I said, man, you need to do a podcast or get on with Corbin or do something like that. Share your story, because, dude, it's impeccable to hear that stuff.
Dude, I wonder if this is probably way out there, but like during your training sessions, if you could just hook up like a little camera and just be like talking to the camera as you're training and then post that shit on YouTube. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure if it'd be possible. And then you could have clips from it or whatever, pushing it to like people to actually see like this is
or going with that, maybe just document it regardless with the GoPro. Right. But then maybe when you come back, do little voiceovers. Yeah. Or, no shout outs to this guy over here that's doing the podcast, but have someone like himself like edit it, chop it up for you, and share segments of that, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, how badass it would be to see a GoPro and you're swimming next to a shark and you didn't even know it. Because I'm sure that kind of shit does happen. Like, because you're so focused, you know what I mean? It's not like you're like paying attention to the environment. You're just kind of like hyper focused in the element, so you're just going through it. But if you had a GoPro, bro, probably a shark's just swimming right next to you guys and you don't even know that. But regardless, just going through that, and again, you might even get something out of it.
Yeah, it's always been hard for me to try to focus on making content while I'm training, because I'm focused on training, right? Like, I don't really want to take the time most of the time to try to set up a GoPro or record myself or whatever. I'll take some like photos of stuff or whatever after I finish a run or bike or whatever the case is, just simple stuff. But setting up cameras and all that and trying to focus on getting good clips, it's time consuming. Then it kind of takes your mind off of what you're doing in the moment. And to me, it's like, okay, I need to focus on like what I'm training for.
But is there a way that maybe you could just pop it on like as soon as you start and then just set it and forget it?
Yeah, I mean,
Would it
it's a
get in
little
the-
tough on the bike.
I was gonna say, would it get in the way of?
It depends. I'd have to really kind of figure out a good.
Because you have
spot
like
on the-
Kelsey in the background, like chasing you.
Oh,
And shit.
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, one thing that Dylan said that was like, where do you go mentally?
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, this guy's a machine. He's like, I just think about my whatever you said. Like,
Calculations,
yeah,
yeah.
I think about my calculations. I was like, dude, I think like, how do you get there? Like, how do you get in the mental mindset to say, I'm going to run, I'm going to do a 112-mile race or whatever it
Yeah.
is. Like, how do you even get there?
Or do a
You
PR.
know?
I mean, I'm sure at that point, at your level, it's not even like how I'm going to do it. You already know that you're going to complete it because you've
Yeah.
done it. But
Right.
now you want to set a record. So, I mean, going into that headspace and again to try to, okay, I know where I was at before. So what pace do I mentally got to kind of be at or physically to be at?
It takes a lot. Like in 2021 when I did the 100 miles at World's Toughest, so that year was kind of a breakout year for me. I started doing their 12-hour races with a team, and it was this 4-man team, and we won. So we did 2 of the 12-hour races overnight, and we took first at both of them. And it was a big deal for us. The Tough Mudder CEO put us all on the elite list for World's Toughest Mudder, and that was kind of like a big pivotal moment for me where I was like, okay, I'm going to show up to this race, like ready to go. Like I want to be at the top. Like I want to do 100 miles. I had family there. A good family friend of mine had passed away like 3 weeks before the race, and I had to miss the funeral to be at that race. So like mentally going into that, I knew no matter what was going to happen, I was going to finish 100 miles. And like I had never been so mentally tuned and dialed in at like ever going into anything as I was going into that race. And like I wanted it and I did it, and that opened up a whole nother mental capacity in my head. After I finished that, I was like, okay, well, I ran 100, so what's next, right? Like I had all that glory for a day and I thought, cool, I'm on top of the world. I just finished 100 miles at World's Toughest Mudder. Literally the next day I was like, what's next? Like that was short-lived. Like what are we doing next? So fast forward to last year, the same event. It was at a different location, and my goal was 105 miles. Mentally going into it, I didn't feel as fine-tuned as I was the year prior. Physically, I was in a lot better shape, but you also have to play in the factors of weather and a lot of other things. So it was 30 degrees with 30-mile-an-hour winds last year with water on every obstacle, just brutal course. Finished 95 miles. Like just short of doing another 100, and I wanted 105. So that's my goal for this year, is to do 105. Like bottom line, no matter what. But mentally going to get to that point, like going back to when I first started, 50 miles to me just destroyed me, and I said, "What? Like this is the most I can do. Like I don't know if I could ever do 100." And then over the years of doing it, I've done 7 of those World's Toughest Mudder events. It took me up until the 6th time doing it to hit 100. So year after year, I was chipping away at it. I do 50, 60, 60, 60, and then I think I did 80, and then got to 100. It's just you slowly over time expand your mental capacity to pain and different different things you're exposed to.
Have you ever felt it take a toll on your body, or have you been like? Do you ever feel like you got to go to the chiropractor? You gotta,
Honestly, I've never been to a chiropractor, and I've had 1 massage my entire life.
Holy crap, bro! I wonder if that would help too.
Yeah,
you know?
no, I think it definitely would.
Well, I mean, one of the events that he did, I was questioning if he was going to make it back. The one that was it Minnesota?
Oh, for the sled pull thing?
Oh,
Yeah.
that was the Drift 101 in Wyoming.
Yeah, Wyoming. So this guy built his own like sled for all his materials, and it was like a 48-hour thing in the snow.
So That's a whole nother story.
Yeah, but dude, like that's what I'm trying to
we'll get
say.
into it. So the Drift 101 is a 101-mile race through the mountains of Wyoming, like backcountry, 10,000 feet of elevation gain over the whole course. So you can either do it on skis, on fat tire bike, or on foot pulling a sled, and they call it a ski polk. So you have
The sled, is that probably the hardest one? I'm guessing because you're.
Yeah. So you're carrying, and on that race, you're basically on your own. They have a few checkpoints, but I mean, you're out there like in the middle of nowhere. You won't see. There were points where I didn't see anybody for like 8 hours at a time, and then all of a sudden, someone on a snowmobile, one of the volunteers, would come by and be like, "Hey, you good?" Like I remember the first night I was out there, I was up at the highest point, and there was like a blizzard. I mean, it was negative 20 degrees. I'm all bundled up, like just my headlamp. Like all I can see is just snow in front of me, and I'm trying to look for the tags or the markers they had on the trail. And all of a sudden, this guy on a snowmobile comes by and stops. He's like, "You good?" I'm like, "Yeah," and he takes off. I didn't see anybody after that for like hours,
Bro,
dude.
but we were tracking him from like an app or whatever.
Oh,
like,
that's
Yeah, so
smart.
I had a tracker, but the
but
tracker died.
It died. So we, dude, we're like,
He just vanished off the
yeah,
radar.
like, I was like, dude, he was like, he's
For like
been
a
going
day.
for, yeah.
Maybe you got eaten by a bear or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah, well, you know what? None of us had any clue.
So how long is that race then? It's over.
So they had a 48-hour time cutoff.
Jesus.
So
Do you have to like sit there in the woods and make a meal, or are you just eating gel packs,
Dude, so
bro? Like,
I
how-
took these keto bricks. It's super high calorie, high fat bars that, I mean, they don't taste the greatest, but it's something you can get quick calories in. And just I had a bunch of stuff on me. I ran out of water a few times, so I mean I was eating snow and just kept rolling. I ended up getting tied in with a group of guys towards the end, and
That seems dangerous, bro.
what, the whole race?
The whole race
Oh,
seems
yeah,
dangerous
it's
as shit.
That was
crazy.
gnarly, dude.
That's-
so-
Like he was gone for like 20 hours, bro. I mean, he was in the same spot. I was like, wasn't someone gonna pick this guy up, or like, why is he still number whatever
Oh, do
place?
you
he-
think that he was dead?
Yeah, dude. Like, why does your little tracker thing? Everybody else is still moving, bro.
Yeah. So that race, so many people dropped out, like because the snow conditions were so bad. Just trying to trek through it, just people just couldn't do it. Like even experienced people were like dropping. So I get with this group of guys towards the end, and we're all trekking along together. And keep in mind, I didn't sleep at all the entire time I was out there. I tried, but it was just so cold and so miserable. Like I tried to take like couple second micro naps on my trekking poles. I'd just lean over and close my eyes for like 3 seconds and pop back up and walk a little bit. But there was a point where I was coming up on the last day. I was walking with a guy. He was hallucinating so bad from sleep deprivation that he was telling me he lived in like Louisiana. He was like, "Hey, I'm gonna take off and head on home." And I'm like, "What do you mean? Like we're out in the middle of nowhere. What are you talking about?" And at that point too, the ground looked like I was standing in the ocean. Like it was just moving underneath me. I kept thinking I was seeing buildings and people standing out in the middle of nowhere in the forest. And it started snowing on us. So I said, "All right, pull out your sleeping bag and like let's get in." And so I got mine. I couldn't sleep at all. I was just sitting there for a couple hours. So the snow lets up. I get my stuff back together, and I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna take off and finish this thing. We got like 9 miles left." So he links up. One of his guys that he was with was just ahead of us, so they teamed up together, and I took off and kept going. And we were already past the cutoff time at this point, so I'm like, "Okay, well, like I missed the cutoff, but I'm still gonna finish this." One of the volunteers comes by on the snowmobile. I was like, "Hey, I don't know what your guys' rules are. Like, I know I'm past your 48-hour cutoff. Like, do you have to take me back? What's the case?" He said, "Well, so many people have dropped out. The race director extended the time. So he's like, if you finish now, you get your 100-mile buckle, and you'll be a finisher." So I was like, sweet. So I finished it out, and it was like 54 hours, something like that. I was out there. And I didn't sleep for about 60 hours total. So from when I woke up to start the race to when I finished, it was about 60 hours.
Dude, I just think of like the first thing that pops in my mind is wildlife. Bears,
Yeah.
sharks.
We didn't
getting-
really see anything out there.
Really?
Like nothing. No, I don't think I saw a bear. Really, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's middle of winter time. Like when we literally started, like at the start line, it was negative 18 degrees.
Holy shit.
That's the coldest weather I'd ever been in too. Like I remember getting out of the car, getting all my stuff out. I got back in the car and turned the heater on because I was like, this is insane.
You're like, I can't do this at first.
Yeah.
And you're
Well,
like,
once we got moving, you warm up and you start shedding some layers, and the gear is a whole other thing. I mean, you're wearing like triple layer, and you have to make sure you open up and stuff so you're not sweating too much. Because if you start to sweat and get drenched, that's what can kill you in weather that's that cold. So you really got to keep in mind, like, opening up layers, taking stuff off, keeping yourself warm, but not too warm.
I think you inspired both Dylan and Corbin to want to do this.
Absolutely
Well,
not.
I was training for a marathon last year, and like I hate running. I just did it because I hate running. I was like I just probably like 2 months in, and then I was telling him about it, and we had done a couple runs together, and he's like, honestly, dude, like just do 100 miles. And I was like, I don't think I'm there yet. I haven't even done the marathon. He's like, no, but like if you're already training, like you might as well just do it. But like that's just where his mind goes, And like every time like I hear these stories, I always like feel like I'm like watching a movie. Like I'm sitting there, like I can feel the snow on me. I'm like sitting there like I'm a fly on the wall in these stories. It's just nuts.
Yeah, dude. I don't think I would have the desire to do this. I don't think so, man.
You don't want to be in that flow state,
I
brother?
think, no. I think that I would, do jiu-jitsu or something, compete in that. But man, that's like the mental toughness it takes to do what you're doing is nuts, dude. Like I don't know.
Well, and then the desire to want to do more.
I think
right?
that's it, right
like,
there.
I mean,
yeah.
okay, cool, you're doing an Ironman, but why the fuck are you gonna do? You're gonna go in the snow. You've never been in the snow. You're from California.
Yeah.
You're just gonna go carry a sled. Like, why?
How much weight was on the sled? You said.
So that whole sled with everything I had weighed like 40 pounds.
Okay, but that's a lot for 50 hours. It's insane.
Yeah, my hips were not feeling good because you have your poles basically hooked to like a waist strap, and that's basically sitting right on your lower back on your hips the whole time.
How do you think this has benefited your business? Like, do you feel like because you've been able to push yourself through this, these challenges, you're able to use that in other aspects of your life?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my training and my passion is definitely a lot of opportunity cost, right? If I didn't do this stuff, I guarantee you my business would exponentially be more profitable than what it is now. Mm-hmm. But it's also quality of life, right? Like, this is my passion. This is what I want to do. And like we talked about earlier, eventually maybe it will be monetized. I will make money off of my passion. But if I didn't have this in my life, I wouldn't be who I am today or be where I'm at today. And as far as my businesses go, I think just mentally it's helped me get through the ups and downs, really, and push. I've always, basically with my ag business, I've been owner-operator since I've started it. Thankfully now I've taken a step forward in the business, and I have someone kind of managing some of my stuff for me, and taking care of some operations for me, especially during harvest. But as far as when I was doing everything myself, I mean, I just work and work and work nonstop. I mean, 12+ hour days during harvest, just barely sleeping, still training. You kind of get into a state where it's like, I'm going to just keep going. Like, I want to get this done. Like, everything kind of becomes a challenge, and you push, you keep pushing.
I feel like it's so needed right now in today's real estate market too, right? With interest rate, no, I'm kidding. But
So
really,
we should do an Ironman.
yeah, maybe that will help us.
It will.
It will help us. But really, the mental toughness it takes in this business and any business where you have your ups and downs and things don't always go the way that you want them to go, and being able to stay focused on the actual goal and focused on the things that matter to do it. Like I mess up like that. Like this week was a tough week in full transparency for us. And we had a lot of fires we were dealing with. Luckily, we got through them all. However, when that stuff happens, I get really hyper-focused on fixing those issues, which is probably good because at the end of the day, like how we treat our clients and how we handle our business really matters as far as our reputation. And if I didn't give a shit and I just said, whatever, I'm just going to keep focusing on more income-producing activities and bring on more income, well, now I'm not taking care of what I currently have if it's going sideways. But it does stop me from being as productive because I'm so focused on this that even when I don't have anything to do, like I've already done everything I can, my mind is still there. And I can't sit down and, well, I don't want to say I can't, but I struggle sitting down like, okay, I'm going to prospect now. I'm going to do the things I need to do in my business to move the needle forward. I just get stuck on this. Okay, what can I do next to fix this? And it's like you've done everything you can at this point, and now it's just a waiting game to hear from somebody else or the client or whatever. And I think that what you're doing would probably allow, I mean, shit, if I did that, I'd probably have more mental toughness to just push through it.
Well, it's
you know,
a distraction. It's an outlet,
yeah.
right? Like, I mean, the problem is that, okay, you know, I always reference things to the military, but they used to say a bored Marine was a dangerous Marine, right? Because when you're bored, they're getting into trouble, they're doing some dumb shit or whatever the case is because you're in your own head. And so we sometimes want to get out of our own head some way, but like himself, if you have these things that are going on, you don't really have time to dwell, right? Because again, when you do have downtime, that's the dangerous time because we all get in our own head. I mean, I think Dylan was referencing it with something to do with jiu-jitsu this morning when we were working out, but you know, if you allow yourself to get in that state of mind, you automatically defeat yourself. Right, because now you're assuming, and the assumption is what will really unravel something that we don't want to do. But kind of like what he does is, I mean, if he's having a problem with work, but he's got to go do a 7-hour training block,
Exactly.
like you're eventually going to get out of that state of mind because, dude, I mean, after 5 miles, I would imagine like now you're thinking about, okay, I got to finish 20 miles. You know, so I mean, do you feel that maybe does differentiate some of your emotional IQ or balance?
Yeah, it definitely does. People used to always ask me, you know, why do you do this stuff? Like, we don't understand. Like, why would you put your body through this? And my answer used to always be, it's one of the few things that truly makes me feel alive. And nowadays, my answer is a little different. I think it's because it's all kind of transferred into more of a life passion. And to me, it's a challenge. And now it's like, well, what can I physically and mentally do more? Like, how much further can I push the envelope? But still, it's the biggest escape for me mentally and physically doing this stuff. And I think, you know, everyone's got their traumas and their issues from their past or whatever you might be going through. But this stuff, like, will take you out of it for a short period of time. Everything just goes away and you're focusing on what you're doing that day. And I mean, the reward once you're done is it's just the dopamine rush is unlike anything else.
Knowing that you accomplished something that very, 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 very few are doing. Even just the training part.
Yeah.
Just when you get up and train for, like Bo said, 7 hours. I mean, that and alone in itself is an accomplishment. You know, like,
well, and to have the personal discipline, right? Like, I mean, how many times have we talked ourselves out of doing something hard? Right, like, oh, I'm a little tired today.
That's
like,
normal.
maybe I'm not going to go to jits or whatever. You know,
That's all normal, though. I mean, like, my schedule's not perfect, right? I don't wake up early every day to do training. I mean, I'm more of a night owl. I'll stay up really late. And
he's like, I don't wake up early to do training. I just train from 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I get up at 7 to go to work
so now
or train again for 7
Now
hours.
I have to die in the heat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just whenever you can really get it in, right? You also have to really keep your body in mind of like, hey, am I going to be able to function today off of 3 hours of sleep, get up early and get my training done now, or should I sleep a little longer, let my body rest, and maybe I can squeeze in this training later? And some days, you know, you just can't get it all in, and that's fine. You know, that's being human, right?
But do you think that maybe with that too, like, just because I know you on a personal level and I'm grateful for that, do you think having a significant other that maybe is just as crazy as you? Because if somebody was a worrier,
Yeah.
right, like, oh, don't train so hard, or you know, because I'm sure everybody's done that along your path.
I'll just open the door.
Yeah,
There
you know.
go.
But I mean, I think
See
at
you
this
later.
point you have found someone that is not as equally crazy, but is supportive. Do you think
Yeah.
that makes a difference as well?
100%. Yeah, she's wild. I mean, tomorrow she's doing her first physique bodybuilding show. And
Wow.
So she's a little crazy.
She's
too.
dying.
she's like, yeah, all leaned out right now.
I saw her post on Instagram yesterday, and it was like just 2 cups of rice. And
Oh,
she's
she
like,
was so stoked.
yeah, she's like, oh, I've been looking forward to this. And I slid up, and I was like, the fact that you're looking forward to this makes me a little sad. But I was like, I love the discipline, though. Dude, that's awesome.
Literally, she got home last night, and she's like, I get to eat 2 cups of rice today and like whatever, how many more ounces of chicken. She's like, I'm so excited for this.
Dude, it's probably that similar mindset though. Like she's getting in the zone to compete.
She's wild. She played volleyball in college, and she's been a collegiate volleyball coach since. And shortly after we had got together, I talked her into doing an ultra. And keep in mind, she wasn't a runner at all.
How far is an ultra?
So anything over a marathon. But I did a 100-mile run or race in Reedley. It's called the Silver Moon Race, and they also have a 24-hour option where you just do as much as you can. So she signs up for that, trains like I'd say for 2 or 3 months prior to it, goes out there and covers I think 73 miles
in 24 hours.
Yeah, like never being a runner ever.
That's insane.
Like I was like, wow, this chick's crazy. Like this is my type of girl right here.
It's like his twin, but a female.
But she's super supportive, and that's huge to have that person that supports you in everything you're doing. And I mean, if you have a crazy lifestyle with business and whatever else you're doing, if you have somebody that's there for every step of the way, and if they even have just as crazy of a lifestyle and you can understand that, then it's just a match. It's perfect.
100%, dude. There's no way you could be with somebody that's a couch potato.
Oh,
that
never.
would drive you crazy.
Never.
I bet.
And, like I mean, she's amazing. She works her ass off. She's a coach at Fresno City. She runs she's a director for another volleyball club and coaches for another club. She's all over the place in the volleyball community and just works her ass off, trains and sticks to her diet to the T. I mean, she's super disciplined, and that's my type of woman right there.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. Dylan, what about you, bro?
I've just been over here soaking up all the good stories and
He was
everything.
a fly on the wall.
man.
He said he was living the dream,
I
dude.
was.
Like, curious.
He
This
didn't want
guy
to get
has
into
all
it.
the discipline.
Nah.
You're like the master cold caller, man. Like I
Nah.
don't know how you do that.
I mean, I think what's cool, like about like any like discipline, like whether it's running and like training or like jitsu or working out, like I think there's just like we call it in wrestling, we call it deep waters. You get into this place where you like other people call it the pain cave. And like you get in this place and it's just like it's very it's a flow state. And you're not thinking about anything else, but you're thinking about like the next step. And in wrestling or jitsu, it's like you can't think about the outcome of the match. You can only think about like your next step. And I'm sure for you, it's like when you're running, you can't think about the end of the race. You have to think about, okay, I just got to put one foot in front of the other. I just got to keep putting one foot in front of the other. Okay, I need to fuel up. You just think about your next steps. And I think to go to your point with what you were saying earlier of like how it translates to business, like I really do think like you have to kind of find your pain cave and find that time where you're not really thinking about what else, but you're just kind of fully immersing yourself in your craft and what you're doing. And going on your point about like finding like things to busy yourself, like for me lately it has been like jujitsu and stuff, because like after work or I work out, but there's just an itch I can't scratch, and there's something else that like if I am chilling, I'm probably gonna spend my time on my phone. So I'd rather do something. And what's cool about jujitsu is you kind of go into the mat. This is different from wrestling, but you go into a mat and you have people from all walks of life. You have people that have like neck tattoos. You have people that are like doctors and stuff. And you all go on there. You strip down all your titles, all your past, all like what you do, and you just go onto a mat. And the only thing that separates each individual from another is their belt. And you go in there and you get humbled, and you go and humble some people. And it's just, there's something just like, so for me relates so much to like my background with wrestling of like that pain cave and the discipline, because you can't think about anything else and you just fully immerse yourself.
Where are you training at right now?
I go everywhere.
Just kind of.
Yeah.
Are you guys training tonight?
I'm down.
Let's train tonight, dude.
I'm super down. Oh, he probably needs to
like-
train or something.
Yeah.
I'll see. I'll follow up with you later.
Yeah.
I gotta double check the schedule.
Yeah, Bo.
Oh,
Training,
shit.
man.
I just want to be the fly.
No,
on
we
the
actually
wall
need to
over
get
here.
him going, because I've been trying to get him to go for a while. He
I
wants to
think you
do
would love
it.
dude.
No, I've done it before.
Oh, you've done it before.
Yeah.
He's good. He's good. He's strong as shit.
Well, yeah, hell yeah, dude. He's got the wrestling background too.
But you just gotta like twist his arm a little bit because his shoulder's like not flexible. He was like, oh,
Arm bar. They're like, that was a finger lock, bro.
Twist his finger.
Oh yeah, man, that'd be fun.
Yeah, it's
That'd be
fun, though.
Do you usually train at like? Do you have a specific? I know you don't have a specific gym, but do you go to one more than the others?
not really. I mean, I'm still kind of dipping my toes in the water. I haven't fully committed yet. For me, I just like, I don't do well with just doing. I don't understand people that just want to like live life like mediocrely, So like if I do it, I want to be really good. And so I've kind of just been dropping into gyms where I feel like I'm going to be around people that are going to push me to be good and that are going to challenge me. Also where I feel like the culture fits like what I'm around. So I've just been kind of dropping into different places to find like where I want to call home. So I haven't found that place yet, but yeah.
So my buddy's opening up a gym. It's going to be legit. It's over there in Madera too. Kind of. You know Riverstone?
Yeah.
And you know off the highway there, you have that little like strip with like the boat shops and all that. He has a spot right there.
Oh, sick.
Dude, he's making this place legit. It's going to have a sauna. It's going to have locker rooms. It's going to have, you know, hella nice mats. It's going to have like the full setup. And it's going to be very, very structured.
Yeah. That's
So,
what I like. I really appreciate the structure.
Yeah, he's going to have it very structured to where you have to pass certain tests to get your belt. The thing with Jeff is he doesn't give belts easily.
That's good.
Either, like at all. So you have to really know your shit in order to belt up. And that's what I like about training with him is I'll talk to him, hey, how close am I? He's like, don't ask. You're not even close, bro. Like you gotta know this, and this. You gotta know how to properly do it, you know, because he does like a grading scale thing basically is, you know, he'll test you and you'll do a move like 8 out of 10, right? Like it's not perfect. Well, he wants you to have those basics. He's not expecting you to do anything crazy, but he wants those basics 10 out of 10 before you even get your blue belt. Because he wants your blue belt to be able to smoke like any other blue belt.
That's,
you know? And that's
dude, that's so important, man. Like that's honestly 100% like what I'm looking for. And I think it's funny because I coach wrestling now, and the high school kids, they want to like do all the fancy shit. You know, they want to like duck unders and which are like just crazy moves. But when they go to me, they expect me to give them like a plethora of moves. But when you get to college, you take a lot of those like fancy moves, and people still do them, but you drill the basics like day in and day out. You do a double leg a gazillion times. You do a single leg a gazillion times, but your single leg is really damn good. And for me, what that's taught me is like, okay, like even now, like I get frustrated when I go to certain gyms and like they want to do these like crazy moves. I'm like, I want to just drill the basics until like I'm so bored I want to just like go somewhere else in my brain. Like there's something so nice about that, because when you drill the reps, you can then translate that to the next move. But if you're learning a bunch of little shit, you're never going to be good at one thing. I'd rather be a sniper than a shotgun.
I love that, dude. And I feel like as a, you know, from white belt to blue belt, I feel like that is your basics. Oh, look, my son. Oh, what's up, bud?
There's a guy
In the garage? Who's in the garage?
I don't know.
Okay, I'll be out there in a bit. We're almost done here, okay? All right. Bye-bye.
See you,
You
buddy.
got big.
Yeah, man. Turn 4.
That's awesome.
Growing. But I think that white belt to blue belt is like your basics. Like I feel like if you have your blue belt, you know the basics. You know, side control, mount, you know, different escapes, you know, shrimping, you know, all that stuff, and you know it well.
Yeah.
Like you can actively do it on almost anybody, even higher belts. You should be able to do those basic moves.
Yeah.
And then when you go from blue belt to black belt, you know, you have more like technical where you're perfecting those. This is how it's been explained to me. Of course, I'm just a white belt and I don't know jiu-jitsu. But like you're going from blue belt to black belt, that's all your technicals. And then even from like brown belt to black belt, you're like learning like the fine stuff on all your moves. And like,
You want to know one funny thing?
Dylan's like, he's full of shit over here.
No. I smiling because, dude, I fucking love this shit. Like it's so cool.
So one funny thing is I was in Kinju Judo back in the day before like jits got super popular, and I made it to blue belt. And kind of like what you guys are talking about, like, you know, you'd be inspired by these people that are like higher levels. But if you went from like a blue belt and you went and sparred with like a black belt, like you felt like you didn't know anything anymore. You know what I mean? And that's what kind of jiu-jitsu reminds me of, because, you know, Kinju Judo was a lot of throws and stuff like that. So that's why it correlated with wrestling. But when you see some of these guys go to judo competitions, the level that kind of goes from here to here is the same when you look at someone in jits, because if they weren't wearing that belt and you just went to roll with them,
Oh, you get smoked.
it's almost like you're like flimsy because they're so good, you know.
And, you know, Chris was showing me something yesterday, Chris Pena, where like, you know, I have my arm on somebody like this. You probably know this.
Don't
dude,
fight
'cause
me
it's
on
in
the
wrestling.
podcast,
I'll try
bro.
not to. Try not to. But my arm was like kind of turned up like this, right? And I'm like putting all this pressure on, like trying. He's like, bro, like, why are you doing that? First off, your arm being up like this, it just gets pushed off
Yeah.
easily. And he's like, just try this. Just keep your arm in and just be like gentle. Like you don't have to be hard, right? Like if he comes forward, you go forward with him. If he goes back, you go back with him.
Yeah.
And it was funny, like that little change. One, you're not using as much energy and strength because you're not like trying so hard and like using all your might to hold somebody. You're just going with the flow, and like they can't get the arm off. Like,
Yeah.
It's like annoying if you're the person that has the arm on,
Yeah.
right? And Jeff and Chris are really good at this because they're black belts, and
Yeah.
they'll fucking keep your arm on. You know, there's nothing you can do. You try to get it off, and it goes back. Right?
Yeah.
So just like what you're saying. That black belt, that high level is like these small little things that they do
They've been practicing.
that they've been practicing forever, and it's so far above what anybody.
And
can do
there's
that
like
just
it's the
started, you know?
details, man. It's like that's the thing. And I think a lot of people like it teaches me even in life. Like I think we want to like know everything, but if you can get really really good at the basics, like that you can skill stack from there. And there's
Even in business, dude.
100%.
Right? Like business, the basics, prospect in real estate at least, prospecting, closing deals, like those things. And then there's all these gizmos out there, social media, which I'm not saying it's bad, but like you have social media and all these other extra additives, but those basics are fundamental to your success.
Yeah, absolutely. Dude. I took my girlfriend's brother to jiu-jitsu, and he said the whole time I was just smiling. And I just was like a little kid, like playing like a frisbee or something. I just had a blast. Like it's just so fun. And I always like seek out. I just want to get my ass kicked. Like I'm like, who's the best guy in here? And there's this like humongous dude, a black belt, and I just watched him like kill this other black belt. And then he was like this Brazilian guy, and I was like, all right, like you down to roll with me? And he's like, sure. And I was like, all right. So like we roll, and then he literally was just like felt like a cat playing with a mouse. But the whole time I was just smiling. I'm like, kick my ass. Like I love this shit. You know, it's so fun.
It's like when he kicked my ass a week ago.
Well, you said earlier, you're like, we were throwing each other, and I was like, you guys were throwing each other?
Yeah, well, we're rolling around on the ground. That's funny because I literally before we started, I looked at him. I was like, dude, you're just gonna manhandle me. Like you're gonna kick my ass. You're a D1 wrestler, right? That's
Yeah.
what yeah, in college. Like, well, it's my first day here, so let's see how this goes.
But I was really
We ended up,
impressed.
like, throwing each other over like a bunch of times. Like we're literally rolling across the mat in the gym, like running into people.
Yeah. That's what's so fun about it. You can just like, I mean, I just appreciate a role. So like you can be at any level, and like that's what I think what's great about martial arts in general, like whether it's wrestling or jiu-jitsu or whatever discipline, it's you don't go around and you don't like walk around like this super confident person, but you have this like level of confidence that you can handle yourself, but you never feel the need to do that, you know, just like a confident man. Like he's not going around like trying to put other people down. You just know in yourself you're secure, you know, and like you don't use that against other people like a truly confident person, you know.
No, that's hella true. And you see the people that are sometimes the loudest. I was thinking of this thing that happened the other day.
Yeah,
But that are the loudest, like, I'm going to kick your ass and all this stuff, usually are the people that have never been humbled, right?
Yeah.
Like, I know that I can go into my jiu-jitsu gym, and most of those guys will whoop my ass.
Yeah.
Right? So you realize what you're really capable of when you get put in that position.
Yeah.
And you realize, like, holy shit, like, if somebody knows how to fight, they're going to fucking whoop my ass.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about it, you know? And people think that there's like, oh, just because you're bigger or just because, you know, you had a couple fights in middle school that you're going to be able to kick anybody's ass.
Well, I was watching a podcast, and I can't remember the guy, but he's pretty popular at this point. But he's a pretty jacked guy. He's in fitness, and
I know who you're talking about.
And
Yep.
and so he was talking to this African American gentleman that's like a 150-pound professional boxer, and he's like, the podcaster was like, "Do you think you can kick my ass?" He's like, "Absolutely." And the guy was like, "Bro, I will manhandle you." And he was like, "Bro, like everybody says, because I could do street fights," or he's like, "You're strong, obviously." He's like, "But I'm professional boxer, bro."
Yeah,
He's like, "My hands are my weapons." He's like, "But you seriously think I can't just wrap you up and slap you?" And the guy was like, "No, bro, you'll never get to me."
Yeah.
Like, but he was so confident, and you could tell, like, if that was to go down, how funny it would be. Because there's this big guy just trying to come, and maybe he's athletic, and he kept on going, and they were just egging each other on. But it was like a respectful way about going about it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you were referencing, you're kind of like, damn, that guy's hella big. You know,
Yeah.
he would, but he was just like, bro. He's like, I'll light your face up like 100 times before you even touch me.
Like,
you know?
Strength plays a role for sure, like it helps. But just like we were talking about, those little tiny differences that these guys at the elite level are doing that you don't even realize they're doing, that puts them way ahead of you.
Yeah.
And you don't stand a chance if you don't have any sort of background,
100%.
no matter how big you are. I guess unless you're like 300 pounds and you can just like lay on somebody.
Yeah. Well, what made you want to start getting into like jiu-jitsu and stuff?
I don't know, but I think just I always kind of thought it was cool, and I always heard about it, and it's something that I wanted to get my son into as well. And I didn't want to like get him into it if I didn't know it. I want to be able to kick his ass if
Yeah.
I don't want him to get better than me and then be able to kick my ass.
Right.
No, I'm just kidding. I want him to be better than me, but
He will.
yeah, he will for sure. He 100% will, because he'll have the time, and he's young and growing up. But I think just an outlet different than the gym. Because like you mentioned, I was doing the gym for years, man. I've been going to the gym since I was 21, 22.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say it's boring, but sometimes it is boring.
Yeah.
And I wanted something more fun that
Yeah.
I could also, learn a new art and burn calories, stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And jiu-jitsu's been that fit because it's
Totally.
it's fun,
It really is an art form, like you said. Like it's not like the way one guy does it is going to be completely different than how another guy does, and that's what's I think so cool about martial arts is you can throw your own twist on things and kind of be expressive within it.
100%. 100%. Well, all right. So, guys, thank you for coming on. Does anybody have any final notes?
No, I just it's been fun. It's always fun. It's cool to hear all the stories. I've heard a lot of his stories, and every time I'm just inspired by him. So I'm appreciative of being on here.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy, bro, that you do that, man. I think you should document that.
100%.
It's powerful, man, and inspiring to people even outside of that industry. So
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll start putting some stuff out for you.
hell yeah.
I think this is your time to shine. But
Yeah.
I too am grateful to be on here. And I mean, you never know what we're gonna get when we start talking. But it's always fun. So we look forward to the next one.
Hell yeah.
Thanks you, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming on. We'll do it again.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.